There's I stumbled across this very fine lady in Christian history. Her name is called Fanny Crosby. We got a picture of her. And she was born in 1820. And at only 6 weeks right after her birth, only 6 weeks old, she lost her son. She was blind. But that wasn't the end of her story. Fanny was a very successful lady. She didn't let her disabilities, what life thrown at her, she didn't allow that to hold her back. She's a researcher, and she was one of America's greatest hymn writers. She wrote in her lifetime, she lived a long life, as you see, 95 years old. She wrote more than 8,000 hymns. You might Blessed Assurance, that's her. Right? But she had a preacher one time try to encourage her. Don't you love those? You're going to love this story. He tried to sympathize with her. He said, oh, that the master, oh, what a pity the master didn't give you sight amongst all the gifts he's given you. She also wrote poetry. He said, oh, that the master didn't have pity on you and just give you sight. Which she responded to the pastor, if I was at my birth and I could give one request, one petition, it would be that I would be born blind. Well, the pastor was kind of perturbed. He said, why is that? He said, you know this, he said, because when I get to heaven, the first face my eyes will see will be that of my Savior. Right? See, Fanny was content with where God put her, with what God in life dealt her hand. And she made a successful life of that. What about you today? Are you content today? Well, what do you mean? I'm all right. No, are you content today? The Bible says we should be content as believers. We're to be known by our contentness, and I can make a word like that. I found a really good definition of contentment. All right, here it is. To be at peace on the inside when the outside is out of control. Right? Right? Is that you today? Do you have peace on the inside when everything else outside of you is out of control? Anybody? That's been my past 2 weeks. Amen? All right? Contentment. Are you content? I love what Spurgeon said when he talked about contentment. He said, as long as the man is alive and out of hell, he cannot have any cause to complain. Right? What about what Luther said? I love this one. I've held many things in my hands and have lost them all, but whatever I've placed in God's hand, that I possess. And of course, everybody knows the proverbial is a glass half empty or half full, right? Everybody has their own opinion. Well, check out this answer. Jack Wellman, he says, is a glass half empty or half full? Just be thankful you have a glass. Right? See, contentment is all about our perception. How we view life, the lens that we look at it through. And that's our background, our upbringing, but it all comes down to a perspective. Right? But we struggle, right? We struggle to be content. Anybody struggle to be content? Oh, we have all those pressures. Our friends are looking on Facebook. Well, look at that. We got a new car. They don't deserve that. They haven't worked hard for that. Or see some on TV. Boy, I got to get that new Samsung 7. Got to get that new phone. On and on. Marketers spend billions of dollars to make you discontent. Right? But Paul, in the Bible, he figured out how to be content. Think anybody wants some contentment today? No? Nobody can use contentment today. Paul figured out how to be content. And we're going to look at that real quick. And these are powerful, powerful verses. The first verse, it's one that you could preach for hours, but it's one that I'm just like, do what? So we'll put that up. Kind of looking at the end of Philippians 4. Now you got to remember, go back to the other slide if you would. Context is Paul. Apostle Paul he's in Rome. He's under house arrest. And could be chained to a guard or something. I don't know. Could have been beaten or whatever. He's probably cold, probably starving. And but this is where this is kind of the context he's writing out of. So kind of a miserable, think of a dark, miserable context. But Philippians 4:11, we'll go with that. Paul said, "For I've learned to be content, whatever the circumstance." I've learned to be content, whatever the circumstance. So I've highlighted learn because contentment isn't purchased. You can't purchase contentment. Now the world tells you can, but you can't purchase contentment. I'm sorry to broke somebody's heart. You can't purchase contentment. You can learn contentment. Paul said, "I've learned contentment." How did he learn? How do you learn contentment? You go to school and enroll in the school of contentment? No. You learn contentment through your experiences. It's not a microwave solution, right? It's one of those little slow cookers, right? For believers, over your lifetime. So I learned to be content. What, just on Sunday? Did you say only on Sunday? Because I'm content. No. Did you say I've learned to be content when the kids are acting right? Did you say I've learned to be content when I have money in the bank? No. I've learned to be content whatever the circumstances. Paul is writing this out of, Paul's been shipwrecked, he's been beaten, he's been cold, he's been naked, he's been persecuted. I bet at some point in life, Paul's sitting in some dungeon somewhere, being a persecuted for Christ. I'm sure he probably was depressed at some time. Right? Anybody depressed this morning? Is that your circumstance? What's your circumstance this morning? Anybody have any circumstances that they're struggling with? Right? Yeah. Paul says, do what? Be content. Well, okay, in the culture, the Greek culture, and by the way, content, this is the only time in the whole Bible that Greek word is used, contentment. It's very important. And it's kind of it means to be self-sufficient, self-fulfilled. So you're saying, Paul, within what you have within you, or are you saying that you're content with what you have? No. That's not the way Paul is using this context. He's saying, I don't have it within me. I can't be okay with what's happening in my life. And so, well, how can you be content? Well, this contentment, he's saying, but I'm content, you see, because I have God. I'm content because I know Christ. That is what helped me be okay. Right? He goes on to say, I know what it's like to be in need, and I know what it is to have plenty. So this is for poor people and rich people. Poor people and rich people, they have their own issues. They still struggle with contentment. Right? Do you ever think of that? Oh, if I had all the money in the world, I would be content. No. Millionaires commit suicide just as much as poor people do. A different degree. Poor person is envious. I want that. They struggle with that. I can't be content because I'm looking, man, I got to have that to be okay. A rich person is greedy. They keep on wanting more. And neither one, at the end of the day, are satisfied. Paul said, you can be. I have learned to be content whether I had nothing or whether I had everything. And Paul had both at one point in his life. He goes on to say, I've learned the secret of being content. Did you know the secret, I'm going to let you know something, the secret What is the secret to contentment? Well, only believers can know the secret of contentment. You thought that. What's the secret of contentment? Jesus. That's the only true contentment. I've learned the secret of being content in any and every situation, whether fed or hungry, whether living in plenty or want. He goes on to keep on saying, whatever my circumstances, either material or mainly material, I've been okay. God's given me the strength to press forward. But then he comes to the how. Well, how do you be content? He comes to, everybody knows it, the most misinterpreted verse in the Bible. You see it on football games, on little banners. You see it on T-shirts, and it's most misinterpreted. The way we can interpret right is just keep it in the context. It's very important. That's how you can apply it. Paul said, I can do all of this. What's he talking? All what? Is this all your efforts? All you can do? Well, he's saying, I can do all this. All this he's talking about. I can do all, I can be content. That's all this he's talking about. I can be content with whatever's pressing in on me from outside. Those pressures that keep on knocking at my door. And I have to answer them. How will I answer them? Victorious or defeated? You do this on your strength, Paul? No. Don't misinterpret, I can do all this. I can do all this through him. What's a better, through him is better, but the Greek, instead of through, is better interpreted in him. In him. I can do all this in him, in Christ. Who gives me strength. That's the only way he can do it. That's the only way we can do it. Right? What I think Paul is really trying to say here, kind of summing up some of these verses, is that contentment is knowing that God's in control. Right? Is being able to, you have all light pressing in on you, but you can step outside that, not in your strength, only in Christ's strength. You can step outside of the chaos, what's going out of your control, and you can step back and say, hey, it's going to be all right. God's in control of the situation. According to his will. Now, like I said, verse 13, I can do all these things. Well, that's in the context, according to God's will, through his strength. So it's very important for us being content that we know that God's in control of everything in our lives as believers. That's kind of the secret of contentment. God has it figured out. God has it in control. Somebody just needed to be reminded of that this morning. But God's in control of your situation, whatever that is. I've been burdened that as a work in jail and all that, I just see people whose lives are just out of control. And what's so sad is, as I talk to them and listen to their story, I was at the hospital, been out of the hospital all week, listened to this guy's story. Meth head, 15, 17 years, abused his body started to shut down. He was trying to find contentment. We do the same thing. We try to find contentment. Because our world's out of control. We forget God's in control. So what we do, we try to find that solution. Internet porn, you name it. Drugs, alcohol. We might eat ourselves to death. We might, what is it? Got to remember God's in control. But also, we also need to remember that God's power is enough. God's in control, but his power in and through us to help is enough to get us through the situation, whatever that is. We have to remember that. A couple years ago, this prayer, don't put it up yet, I really kind of condensed a lot of this to what I call the contentment prayer. Many years ago, when son Joshua was in the NICU, as we were in the NICU, first 24 hours of his life, we're in there 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, real quiet, and they told us, you need to start bracing yourself because it looks like a lot of his organs are shutting down. You need to start going ahead and get through the mourning process. Discontentment. That's my son. What do you mean? What do you mean? Start preparing the funeral? No. That's my son. And sometimes we face our life comes at us, and it's our discontentment, our circumstances are so overwhelming that sometimes we have to pray this prayer, the contentment prayer. It goes like this: Lord, I can't. That's always a good thing. Get your way out of get yourself out of the way. Lord, I can't. But you can. And you can through me. See, submission. Contentment is through submission. I can't. Not in my strength, not in my ability. I'm not smart enough. I'm not pretty enough. I don't have enough money to buy it. I can't. But you can. Because you're in control. You have the strength. And in that I want to rest. And submit and allow you to work in and through me because it's according to your will. And at the end of the day, I have to be okay with it. This morning, there are many people that are discontent because they're not okay with what God has done to them. Right? You're in bondage. You're a slave. You're discontented. And you will never be content unless you today say, Lord, I can't. I can't with this issue. This is too much for me. It's ruining my life. It's ruining my marriage. It's ruining my peace, my joy. I can't. But today, you can. And you can through me.
Right.
So are you content today? You can, here's the message, and walk out of here, check that off, and still be as discontent as when you walked in here today. My prayer this week, this morning, has been that not be the case. All right. Let's bow our heads, please. Lord, we thank you for your word. We thank you for the truth that in this sinful, chaotic, broken world, that you're in control and that you're almighty, all-powerful in our lives. But Lord, I do know that there are those this morning that are discontent. Maybe something happened in the past, in a relationship, whatever it was, Lord, they need to lay that down today. Lord, I pray you just give them the strength to do that once for all. Lord, let's all this up. In Jesus' name, amen.
And I wanna love you more.